Hey guys, welcome back to my normal Saturday videos here. I wanted to talk to you today about conversation. This is something that I clearly feel very passionate about, and it is the number one, in my opinion, it's the number one issue with what's going on in American politics, in American beliefs, in America in general, and for the most part throughout the world right now. I feel like we as human beings are very prone to tribalism, in that we will come up with an idea, we'll think that idea is super valid, we'll find other people that gather around that idea, and I'm not saying that, it could be a stance on abortion politics, it can be a stance on a nominee for an office, it can be a stance on religion, whatever it happens to be. We will form these tribalism, and we'll surround ourselves with like-minded people that support those ideas and those viewpoints, those beliefs. And what happens then is that we create this superficial sounding board when we project the ideas. The person that we're projecting them to just gives them back to us in the same stance, or even to some degree strengthen those ideas, those concepts, into something more and more and more ideological. The issue with this is that we will then take somebody that has not necessarily even an opposite viewpoint, but a different viewpoint on something similar, or a similar idea or stance, and they will do the same thing. And simultaneously, these two groups will exist in these vacuous idea bubbles where they're circulating this one belief, this one stance on whatever we are discussing. And those ideas will, in and of themselves, become strengthened and develop, and they'll eventually come into conflict. When they come into conflict, what will happen is these ideas are so strengthened and so developed in a vacuous area that when they first conflict, they'll fall apart. Both of them. And the strength of the idea will devolve down to whoever is presenting it best, whoever is better at conversing. Whoever can illuminate their idea the best in the moment will get the win, and whoever's listening to that conversation will attribute that win, that arbitrary stance on the idea, becomes down to its presentation, not to the idea itself. Then, from that conversation, both of these two groups will take that conversation and they'll use the other standpoint to develop the idea based around not the merits of the idea itself, but then the counter argument to what they just heard. And they'll strengthen the idea in this vacuous way based solely on that first collision. And then we'll go from there to another collision, and we'll repeat that process. We'll take an idea developed in a vacuum, collide it with another idea developed in a vacuum, and we'll further develop it against that collision, against that counter argument. And we'll continue to do this until the idea has substance based around its opposition and based around a vacuous notion where it can stand up to scrutiny. Now, sometimes through this process, we will come up with a position that holds merit enough that it destroys the other argument. However, in most of the mainstream, particularly political, religious, or ideological arguments, there is no true, fast, easy way to say that the other side is wrong. When this happens, it becomes an argument about argument. We start talking about how this person cannot be right, rather than this is why we are correct. We paint things in such a way that it is impossible to present a rational conclusion on, and we do so through tribalism. What we do is we surround ourselves with like-minded people, we continue to develop these ideas that were created in this fashion that I've just illustrated, and then rather than actually hearing the other side, without actually listening to where that idea came from, we continue to elaborate on our standpoints in such a way that it makes the other side invalid just by existence. And we no longer have a conversation about what they actually think, what the other side actually thinks. We other the group. We paint everybody in a narrative that is diametrically opposed enough that we can no longer have a conversation about it. And that is extremely poisonous to an honest intellectual debate. So when we come down to the end of the line here, what we're talking about is no longer the idea and the merits of the idea itself, but rather, arbitrary or not, how best you can illustrate the wrongness of the other, or even the otherness of the other. And we shut down a conversation before it actually happens. We never illustrate the point, we never illustrate the idea. We are solely serving to illustrate how having a position other than yours is wrong to begin with. This is what I want to break down. This is what I want to really have a conversation around, develop, and discuss on this channel. That is really the foundation for where we're at right now. I'd be very interested to see where you stand on this argument. Sure, I hold some beliefs very, very strongly, and I'm willing to discuss those as well. I've already painted a picture of some of those in my previous videos, but what I want to do here is highlight, just because I hold those positions and those ideas doesn't mean I don't want to hear the other side of the argument. I want to have a very clear understanding of this as we go forward. So still, I mean, a lot of the ideas I've presented here so far are still very abstract, and I understand that, and I understand, you know, if they're difficult to engage in on that basis, but there's a point to all this. And the point is to, you know, in a 10-minute, 15-minute video on YouTube, I can't really come to all of the different things that I want to highlight and the different things I want to address as we go further. And this will be, you know, building up to different conversations later on. Before we even go down that road, before I even start talking about the Ben Shapiros, the Joe Rogans, the Jordan Petersons, the Matt Dillahunties of this world, people that hold very, very strong viewpoints, or, you know, some people feel a certain way about them just by hearing their name. Before we go down that road, I want to be very clear where I'm coming from, and that's why I'm producing these videos. So look, I'd be interested to hear what you have to say on this, and I will certainly be referring back to this video in the future. So thank you guys so much for the watch. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to subscribe and hear more content, go ahead and do that. If you dislike this video or you have a counterpoint, go ahead and put it in the comments below, and I would be happy to address it. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.